This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. I have a girl best friend in my bed. Her lips were far softer than I had imagined. The touch of her fingers on my back burned like fire. 6 years of friendship vanished in that moment, leaving only the rawest impulses and desires. Between our kisses, I tried to say something, but her lips silenced me again. "Don't talk," she breathed. "Just for tonight." I had known Haley for 6 years, from the first meeting at our university club to working in different cities after graduation. We had always maintained that strange relationship called opposite-sex best friends. She loved tagging me on Instagram with my guy bestie, and I would habitually reply with girl bestie. It was a safe bond, safe enough for us to video call late at night to talk about exes, safe enough for her to discuss her period without hesitation, safe enough for me to believe we would never cross the line. Until that night, when the doorbell rang, I was in the kitchen struggling to prepare dinner. Through the peephole, I saw Haley standing outside with a suitcase, her hair slightly messy from a long trip, but her smile just as bright as ever. "Surprise," she said as soon as I opened the door, throwing her arms around me in a tight hug, the scent of her shampoo flooding my senses. "I told you I'd visit your city, and I keep my word." I took her suitcase, feeling the warmth from the airport crowds still lingering on it. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I could have picked you up. Wanted to surprise you." She slipped off her shoes with practiced ease, bare feet padding across my wooden floor. "Wow, your place looks so much bigger than in the videos." Like a curious cat, Haley wandered around my apartment. She opened the fridge and let out an exaggerated gasp. "Oh my god, you actually buy groceries now? Back in college your fridge only had beer and expired yogurt." "People grow up," I laughed, pulling 2 beers from the fridge and handing her one. "Drink something first, dinner will take a while." She tapped the can with her pale blue painted nails. 6 years, she suddenly said. "We've known each other that long." "Yeah, long enough for you to go from Haley Jr. to Annie Haley," I teased. "Watch it." She pretended to hit me, but ended up pinching my cheek instead. "But really, it's nice we've stayed in touch." Over dinner we talked about everything. She complained about her control freak boss. I grumbled about my landlord raising the rent again. It felt like any other casual best friend hangout. "Remember the first time we drank in college?" she asked. Her cheeks flushed from alcohol. "You passed out after 2 beers, and I had to carry you back to the dorm. That was because I was sick and on medication." "Yeah, right, you just can't hold your liquor," she smirked, shaking her 3rd beer. "Want to try again tonight? See who drops first." I should have refused. I knew my limits. I knew how alcohol could blur the lines. But looking into her sparkling eyes, I found myself nodding. "This time no one's carrying you back," I warned. "Please, we're at your place," she said with a sly smile. We drank more. Our talk drifted from college memories to relationships. She told me about a short 3-month romance that ended because he thought she was too independent. He said I didn't need him enough, she scoffed, as if dating means sticking together every second. "That's his loss," I heard myself say, my voice lower now from the alcohol. "You're an amazing girl." The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Not something a guy best friend should say. But she only paused, then gently clinked her chin against mine. "Thanks," she whispered. "That's why I like being with you. You never make me feel unwanted." The alcohol took hold. My vision blurred, but my mind raced. I noticed her low-cut t-shirt and the shadow along her collarbone, the way she twirled her hair when speaking. It made my heart pound faster. "I'm a bit dizzy," I said, putting down the empty can. "I should sleep." "Already?" she teased. "Go ahead, I'll stay up a bit." I staggered to the bedroom, collapsed without even washing up. In the dark, I heard the TV faintly from the living room and Haley's occasional laughter. Knowing she was so close felt strangely intense. I don't know how much time passed, but I sank into a half-dreaming state. The mattress dipped beside me. A warm body slipped under the covers. "Haley," I mumbled, not sure if it was real or a dream. She didn't answer, just pressed against my back. I woke up halfway in shock. She was naked. I could feel the softness and heat of her skin, the rise and fall of her chest as she breathed. "I'm cold," she murmured, her voice tinged with alcohol and something I couldn't name. Reason told me to get up, go to the couch, or at least put on clothes. But my body betrayed me. When I turned and saw her silhouette in the moonlight, all restraint crumbled. What happened next was sudden yet natural. Her lips were softer than I'd imagined. Her fingers burned against my back. 6 years of friendship didn't matter anymore. Only raw desire remained. Between our kisses I tried to speak, but she cut me off again. "Don't talk," she panted. "Just for tonight." When the morning sun crept through the curtains, I woke alone, her side of the bed empty. Only the creased sheets proved it wasn't a dream. From the living room came the sound of suitcase wheels. I rushed out, pulling pulling on a t-shirt, just in time to see her tying her shoes at the door. "You're leaving?" My voice was rough from sleep. She looked up, eyes flickering. "Yeah, I just remembered I have something to do." The air between us froze. Last night's closeness exposed under the daylight, leaving only suffocating awkwardness. "About last night," I began, but she cut in quickly. "We drank too much. Just a little accident between friends. Don't think too much about it," she said with a forced smile. But her eyes told me it wouldn't be forgotten. As she turned away, I saw the faint red mark on her neck, the one I had left. The door closing sounded like a slap, waking me completely. I stood in the empty living room, breathing in the faint scent of her perfume, realizing some things could never go back. After the door closed, I stood there for 5 whole minutes. Haley's perfume still lingered in the air. That faint mix of citrus and jasmine, once fresh and comforting, now felt like an invisible rope tightening around my throat. I walked mechanically back to the bedroom. The sheets lay in a messy heap in the middle of the bed. A flash of silver caught my eye. Haley's earring was lying by the pillow, a tiny silver star. I recognized it instantly. It was the birthday gift I gave her when she turned 23. The moment I picked it up, last night's memories flooded back like a tide. Her hurried breathing in my ear, the dig of her nails in my back, and the last thing she murmured while curled in my arms. At the time I thought she had said goodnight, but now I wasn't so sure. My phone suddenly buzzed. I lunged for it, but it was only a notification from the food delivery app. No message from Haley. Our chat history still stuck 3 days back. Her asking what fun places my city had, me listing a few spots, ending with a "you're welcome anytime" emoji. When I'd said anytime, I hadn't imagined it would be this kind of welcome. I opened her Instagram. Her latest post was from a day ago, an airport photo captioned, "A trip on a whim." No location tag, no pictures of us, as if she had never even been here. In the shower, the hot water streamed over me, but it couldn't wash away the strange heaviness in my chest. I looked down at the faint scratches on my chest, left by Haley last night. The water stung them slightly, yet the sensation only made me recall the feel of her fingertips. "Damn it," I muttered, turning off the tap and rubbing my face hard. All day I was distracted. I spilled coffee on my keyboard at work, got called on 3 times in a meeting without realizing, even went to the wrong restaurant at lunch. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, but it was never her. By 8 in the evening, I couldn't hold back anymore. I sent her a message. "Did you get home safely?" The instant I sent it, I regretted it. It seemed too deliberate, like I cared too much. But deleting it would be even guiltier. So I stared at the screen, watching delivered turn into read. 10 whole minutes passed without a reply. That tiny blue, red mark felt like it was mocking me. Then my phone buzzed. "Yeah, unpacking now." 7 flat words. No emojis. Completely unlike her usual style. She was the type to send strings of emojis and drawn-out sounds, sometimes breaking one sentence into 5 messages. I hesitated for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before retreating. Finally, I just replied, "Okay," and that was the end of it, like a door gently shutting. For the next 3 days, neither of us reached out. I refreshed her Instagram obsessively, but aside from a few work-related shares, she posted nothing. No selfies, no complaints, none of her signature "today's happy and unhappy moments" posts. On the 4th night, I was cooking instant noodles when my phone rang. The video call ringtone. Haley's name on the screen made me nearly spill the pot. When I answered, her face filled the screen. The background looked like her bedroom. She seemed a bit tired, faint shadows under her eyes, but she still smiled at me. "What are you doing?" she asked softly. "Cooking noodles," I said, turning the camera to the bubbling pot. "You?" "Just showered." She casually rubbed at her damp hair. She was wearing a loose t-shirt. I recognized it. It was the matching shirt we bought together last year. We talked about nothing important, whether work, gossip about mutual friends, both of us avoiding that night, like ignoring the elephant in the room. But the more we avoided it, the more I felt the tension quietly stretching between us. "Oh right," she suddenly said. "Did I leave one of my earrings at your place? The little star 1 foot." "Yeah," I said, going to the bedroom and taking it from the drawer, holding it up to the camera. "Want me to mail it to you?" "No hurry," she bit her lip. "I can get it next time we meet." Next time we meet. Those 4 words made my pulse quicken. When, where? Would it feel natural like before, or even more awkward? "Sure," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "When will?" "This weekend I'm going to New York for work," she cut in. "I'll have a 6-hour layover in your city on the way, if you're free." "Of course," I answered too quickly, nearly over her words. "I can pick you up at the airport or—" "No need," she smiled. "I just want to grab the earring and see you." That "see you" made my throat tighten. She lowered her head slightly, her lashes casting shadows on her cheeks, but her lips curved in the faintest smile. I noticed the neckline of her shirt was a bit loose, revealing a glimpse of collarbone, and there was still a faint red mark there. Was that my bite mark? The thought sent heat rushing through me. We chatted a bit more before saying goodnight. After hanging up, I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail from the video call. The outline of her figure under the shirt as she dried her hair, the way she unconsciously bit her lip when talking, and the flicker in her eyes when she she mentioned. Next time we meet. Weekend. 3 days left. I rolled over and buried my face in the pillow. It still seemed to hold the scent of Haley's shampoo. The next day on my way to work, I got off the subway 2 stops early without thinking and walked into a mall I had never visited before. I lingered in front of the perfume counter for 20 minutes before buying a bottle exactly like the one Haley used. Gift for your girlfriend? The saleswoman asked with a smile. No, I denied instinctively, then corrected myself. Well, sort of. When I got home, I sprayed it into the air. The citrus and jasmine scent instantly filled the room. For a moment it felt like Haley was right beside me. That realization left me both thrilled and ashamed, like a teenage boy secretly keeping something that belonged to his crush. Friday night, I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom, changed to new sheets, even bought the mango-scented shower gel she liked. Reason told me it was far too deliberate, but my body moved on its own, making all these preparations. Saturday noon, I arrived at the airport 2 hours early. Standing at the arrivals gate, I kept adjusting my collar, checking my phone for any message from her. By the time the announcement came that her flight had landed, my palms were already damp with sweat. The crowd began streaming out. I craned my neck searching for that familiar figure. Then I saw her in the crowd. Haley in simple jeans and a white shirt, her hair tied back in a ponytail, looking more alive and real than in any video call. When she saw me, she froze for a second, then walked over slowly, a small curve lifting the corners of her mouth. Hi, she said, stopping just 1 step away. Have you been waiting long? Just got here, I lied, taking the small suitcase from her hand. Hungry? Want to grab something to eat first? She nodded, and we walked side by side toward the airport restaurant. Her arm occasionally brushed mine as we walked, each touch sending a faint current through me. After we sat down, I noticed she was wearing earrings, but not a matching pair. A small moon on the left, nothing on the right. Your earring, I said. Yeah, she touched her right ear. Feels like something's missing. Not used to it. I took the little star earring from my pocket and handed it to her. Our fingers brushed for a brief moment. She quickly pulled her hand back, a faint red creeping onto her ears. Thanks, she said softly, lowering her head to put it on, then looking up at me with a smile. Now it's complete. The sunlight through the restaurant window fell across her face. I noticed her lashes looked faintly brown in the light, and her eyes held tiny flecks of gold. In 6 years I had seen her in so many ways, yet this moment stirred a strange new feeling in me. So she stirred the coffee in front of her. That night, my heart started pounding. I almost dropped my cup. Was it finally time to face it? We drank too much, I said quickly. It was just an accident. Don't think too much about it. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Haley's expression froze for a second, then returned to normal. Yeah, she agreed softly. An accident, but under the table. Her toes brushed lightly against my leg, a small touch that was the opposite of what her words claimed. When I looked up, she was biting her straw, her eyes fixed on mine, with a hint of challenging expectation. I suddenly understood. She wanted me to deny it. She wanted me to say it wasn't an accident. She wanted me to admit that night meant more to me, and I should have said it, because as I looked at Haley, this girl I had known for 6 years, so familiar she felt like another version of myself, I realized that night had never been an accident. It was simply a fate. 6 years late, Haley's flight would begin boarding in 2 hours. I was startled to realize how much time had passed. Her coffee cup had long been empty. The foam at the bottom looked like a small withered flower. We should go, she said, yet made no move to stand. I nodded, reached for the bill, but accidentally knocked over the salt shaker. White grains spilled across the table like a miniature avalanche. Nervous, Haley raised an eyebrow, a faintly teasing smile tugging at her lips. It was the first time today she'd worn that familiar expression, the one I'd known for 6 years. Airports are too noisy, I muttered weakly, tracing meaningless circles on the table. She suddenly placed her warm palm over the back of my hand. Stop drawing, she said softly. You're going to wear a hole in the table. The touch froze me. Her hand was smaller than I expected, fingers carrying a faint coconut scent from hand cream. We stayed like that for several seconds, until a waiter passed by, and she pulled away as if waking from a dream. Want to walk around? She suggested once we left the restaurant. We still have time anyway, so we wandered aimlessly through the airport, passing luxury boutiques and souvenir shops. Haley stopped at a perfume store, sprayed a tester strip. Smell this, she held it to my nose, leaning closer than she had to. I caught the warmth of amber and cedar. It suits you, I said. Really? Her eyes lit up. I've been wanting to change perfumes, but was afraid it wouldn't fit me. It won't, I blurted out. You suit any scent. The moment I said it, I regretted it. It sounded too much fresh like flirting. But Haley only pressed her lips into a small smile and bought the bottle. When she took the neatly wrapped box from the clerk, I noticed a faint ring mark on her finger, a trace from her last relationship. Your ex's ring? I couldn't help asking. She paused, looked down at her hand. Should have taken it off long ago, she said quietly. Just got used to it being there. We kept walking, passing a massive floor-to-ceiling mirror. I caught our reflection. She was right at my shoulder height, our steps matching perfectly, like a real couple. The sight made my heart skip. What are you looking at? She noticed my gaze. Nothing, I looked away. It's just that we look like a couple, she said it for me, then laughed. 6 years already. Someone should have mistaken us for a couple by now. Her words carried an emotion I couldn't quite read. Regret, or a hint of something else. We reached a quiet corner, sat on a bench facing the tarmac. Outside the huge glass window, planes rose and landed in a silent film. Remember in college we said we'd travel together? She asked suddenly. To that place with the northern lights. Norway, I answered instantly. You said you wanted to lie in the snow and watch the aurora. You still remember? Her voice softened. Why didn't we ever go? Because we had other partners. Because of work. Because life always found excuses. But the real reason we both knew. We were afraid a trip alone would change this safe friendship. Next time I said, just the two of us. It was like flipping a switch. Haley turned to look at me, her eyes startlingly bright. Seriously, of course. Courage flooded me. As long as you want to. She didn't answer right away. Instead rested her head on my shoulder. The scent of her shampoo mixed with her new perfume. A pure Haley fragrance. Am I heavy? She asked softly. Light as a feather, I said, though I felt every inch of her weight and the rise and fall of her breathing. We sat there, watching plane after plane. For a moment, I wished time could stop, or that her flight would never board. But the announcement came anyway. Passengers to New York, please proceed. Haley straightened, fixed her hair. We should go, she said, yet still didn't move. I'll walk you to security, I stood, reached for her bag, but accidentally took her hand instead. We both froze, neither letting go. Finally, she gave a small squeeze before releasing me. Let's go, she said, her voice a little hoarse. On the way, our hands brushed now and then. A game of testing and silent understanding. The security line was long, curving like a giant snake. This is far enough. She stopped at the end of the line, turned to face me. I realized this was the first time in 6 years we were saying goodbye like this. No rushed into a video call. No silly emoji over WhatsApp. Safe travels, I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. She nodded, biting her lower lip. Sunlight poured through the glass behind her, gilding her in gold, her lashes casting small shadows on her face. I suddenly noticed a tiny beauty mark near her eye. How had I never seen it before? About that night, she began, fingers playing with the edge of her boarding pass. My heartbeat slammed in my ears. The crowd noise faded. Only her voice remained. I don't think it was an accident, she said at last, her voice soft but unwavering. At least not for me. The words dropped into me like a stone into still water, ripples spreading everywhere. I wanted to speak, but every word stuck in my throat. You don't have to answer now, she smiled. Fix my collar. The gesture far too intimate for friends. Tell me when you're sure. Then she did something I never expected. Rose on her toes, kissed my cheek. A fleeting touch, yet it sent electricity through me. Goodbye, best friend. She stepped back, mischief glinting in her eyes, then turned and melted into the line. I stood there, watching her go until she vanished around the corner. The spot on my cheek burned like a brand. I touched it, catching the faint scent of her perfume. On the subway home, I kept absent-mindedly touching my face. My phone buzzed. A message from Haley. Boarding now. P.S. I saw your stupid face when I looked back. I laughed out loud. Replied, whose fault? Yours, she replied instantly. Took you 6 years to let me kiss you, stingy. My heart skipped. Was that flirting? Or just a joke between close friends? The line blurred. Back home, the apartment felt oppressively quiet. My gaze drifted to the bed we'd once shared for a night. Now I wondered, when she'd slipped into my bed, was it really just because she was cold? Another message came. A selfie from the plane. She wore headphones. The small window behind her. The caption read, "The star earring matches my outfit today, right?" I zoomed in. She was indeed wearing the pair I'd given her. They glittered in the sunlight. Her collar was slightly open. The mark on her collarbone almost faded, but I knew it had been there. Beautiful, I replied, then added, more beautiful than the aurora. She sent a smile emoji. Then, remember you promised to take me to see it. No backing out. Never, I typed, fingers trembling. I'll be waiting. Wait for me, was her last message before takeoff. I set my phone down, walked to the window. Night had fallen. City lights sparkled like stars. Somewhere out there, a plane carrying Haley was crossing the dark sky. 6 years of friendship had shifted in a single day. Strangely, I felt no panic, only relief, like finally admitting a long hidden truth. That truth was, I definitely had already fallen in love with my best friend. On the third day after Haley left, my apartment still carried the scent of her new perfume. Like an addict, I kept the tester strip she had used when trying it on the nightstand. And every night before sleeping, I would take a breath of it. My phone lit up. A message from her. It's raining in New York. I'm stuck in the hotel. The attached photo showed her in a white hotel bathrobe, hair half wet, barefoot on the carpet. Behind her, rain and mist blurred the window view. Droplets clinging to the glass made everything hazy. No umbrella, I replied. My fingers hovered on the screen for a moment, then foolishly added, the bathrobe suits you. Hotel's gift, she answered quickly, then sent another. Want to hear the rain? Before I could reply, an audio message popped up. I tapped it. First came the soft patter of rain, then Haley's gentle breathing, so close it felt like she was right beside my ear. The clip was only 10 seconds, but I played it 3 times. Hear it, she asked. Yes, I typed, deleted it, and finally sent a voice message. I hear it, and you're breathing too. The moment I sent it, I regretted it. Too ambiguous. But Haley only replied with a smile emoji, then said, your voice sounds strange through the phone. Strange. Yeah, like you and not you, she paused. More? Sexy. My fingers hovered over the screen, not knowing how to respond. Our conversation was sliding towards some unknown territory. Dangerous, yet exhilarating. Late at night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My phone suddenly buzzed. Haley's video call request. I fumbled to answer. Her blurry figure appeared. She seemed to be in bed too. Only a small night lamp lit the room. Can't sleep, she whispered, her voice hoarse with drowsiness. Wanted to hear your voice. Me too, I admitted, propping the phone on my pillow so she felt like she was lying beside me. We stayed silent for a while, only looking at each other through the screen. Her face in the dim light was especially soft. Shadows of her lashes trembled gently with her breathing. During the meeting today, I zoned out, she suddenly said. Thought about that time in college, when you helped me fix my PPT until 3 in the morning. You almost failed that time, and you brought coffee and donuts to the library. Stayed up all night studying with me. She smiled, her eyes curling like crescents. Remember, you gave me your jacket and said you weren't cold, but you caught a cold the next day. I remembered her faint fragrance when she wore my jacket, the feel of her hair brushing my neck when she leaned on my shoulder, and how much I wish time could stop there. Did you like me back then? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Too direct, might scare her away, but Haley didn't hang up, and didn't laugh at me. She just looked quietly at the screen, her lips gently pressed together. What about you? She asked instead. You answer first. My heart pounded so hard it might burst. Maybe, I said cautiously, but back then I thought we could only be friends. Because of the opposite sex best friend rule. Because I was afraid to lose you. That sentence was like a key, unlocking a box long sealed. Haley's gaze changed, deeper, more exposed. Idiot, she said softly, her voice impossibly tender. How much time have we wasted? We stared at each other across the screen, neither speaking. Her breathing through the speaker slowly matched mine. In that moment, the 600 kilometers between us felt non-existent. I want to see you, I blurted. Me too, she replied quickly, then half buried her face in her pillow like she was shy, only her eyes visible. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'll pick you up. No, she shook her head. This time I want to go straight to your place. That hint tightened my throat. I thought of the last time she was at my place, of her bare skin against my back, of her breath in my ear. Okay, was all I could say. I have a question, she said suddenly, her fingers idly twisting her earphone cord. That night, do you regret it? No, I answered without hesitation. What about you? If I regretted it, I wouldn't be here now, she smiled, then gave a small yawn. Sleepy? Go to sleep, I whispered. I'm right here. Don't hang up, she murmured drowsily, adjusting her position, placing the phone beside her pillow. I could only see part of her side face and her loose hair. Just stay with me like this. Her breathing slowly became even and deep. I watched her sleeping face on the screen. A warmth and contentment I had never felt filled my chest. Only after making sure she was asleep, I whispered, "Good night, Haley. I love you." The words felt especially clear in the dark, almost tangible. I thought she couldn't hear, but her lips curved faintly in her sleep, and she mumbled something, then burrowed deeper into the pillow. I didn't dare ask what she had heard. I just let the call stay connected, falling asleep to her soft breathing. For the first time in 6 years, we shared a bed, though 1,000 miles apart. The next morning, I was woken by my ringtone. The video call had ended. It was Haley calling. "Morning," she said brightly, sounding nothing like the drowsy girl from last night. "I have a surprise for you." "What surprise?" "I changed my flight. I'll be there this afternoon." Her voice dropped a little. The meeting ended early. I didn't tell anyone. Only you. That small secret warmed my heart. "What time?" "I'll pick you up." "No need. Remember, I said I'd go straight to your place," she laughed. "Leave the key under the doormat. I'll let myself in. You just come home after work. The arrangement carried obvious hints. My thoughts drifted to countless possibilities. You sure? Her voice softened suddenly. I want to cook for you. Then we can talk. Talk. The word was both exciting and unsettling. Talk about what? Our relationship. That night. The future. Okay, I agreed. Then suddenly noticed the time. Crap, I'm going to be late. Go, she laughed. See you tonight. Oh, wear that dark blue shirt. I like that one foot. She remembered the details in my wardrobe. That realization surprised me and warmed me at the same time. After hanging up, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my shirt collar, realizing I was smiling like an idiot. The entire workday became impossible to focus on. I kept imagining Haley inside my apartment. What would she wear? What dish would she make? How would she welcome me home? Every image made my heartbeat race. When it was finally time to leave work, I almost ran toward the subway. Passing a flower shop on the way, I found myself walking in, choosing a small bouquet of white baby's breath. Not ostentatious, but special enough, just like our relationship. Standing at my door, my hands trembled slightly from nervousness. The keys were no longer under the doormat. Proof Haley was already inside. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. A rush of fragrance greeted me. Not perfume, but the smell of food. On the dining table were a few simple homemade dishes, 2 wine glasses, and a bottle of red. From the kitchen came the sound of humming and running water. I walked quietly over, seeing Haley standing with her back to me at the sink, washing vegetables. She was wearing my old t-shirt from the university marathon we ran together, the hem falling to mid-thigh, her long legs bare, her hair tied in a casual ponytail, loose strands falling by her neck, swaying gently with her movements. The moment felt so perfect, I almost didn't dare breathe, afraid of shattering the dream. How long have you been watching? She asked suddenly, without turning around, her voice laced with amusement. Just got back. I stepped closer, placing the flowers on the counter. For you. She turned, her eyes lighting up at the sight. Baby's breath, she said softly, as our fingers brushed when she took them. How did you know I like these? You said so in college. I watched her place them in a glass. Said they were like pieces of stardust. You actually remembered. She lowered her head to smell them, then looked at me with a gaze so soft it almost melted me. Thank you. We stood less than half a meter apart. I could smell the mix of cooking and her perfume. See the tiny beads of sweat along her collarbone. Feel the tangible tension in the air. Dinner's not ready yet, she said quietly, without looking away. Do you want to take a shower first? It sounded like an invitation. I nodded, forcing myself to step back. Okay. On the way to the bathroom, I noticed the bedroom door half open, something lying on the bed. Curiosity pushed me to push the door wider. A set of black lace lingerie lay there, as delicate as artwork. That's my new outfit. Haley's voice came from behind. I turned to see her leaning against the doorframe, cheeks tinged with red. Wanted to see if it suits me. The word struck me like a match to gasoline, burning away all restraint. In 2 strides, I was in front of her, taking her face in my hands and kissing her. This kiss was nothing like the drunken one before. It was clear-headed, deliberate, charged with 6 years of suppressed emotion. She froze in surprise for a second, then responded quickly, her fingers clutching my shirt. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless. I don't think we need to wait until after dinner, she said, her eyes shining. I already know what I want to talk about. What? I asked softly, my fingers tracing her cheek. This, she whispered in my ear on tiptoe. I want to be with you, not as your best friend, but as your girl. The words struck like lightning. 6 years of waiting, of restraint, of quiet longing, finally answered. I thought you'd never say it. I held her tightly, savoring the reality of her in my arms. Me too. She buried her face against my chest. Good thing I got drunk that night. Good thing I did too. We both laughed and kissed again, this time with no alcohol, no excuses, only 2 hearts finally finding each other. Morning light filtered through the half-open curtains, drawing a golden line on the floor. I woke to the weight in my arms. Haley curled against me, her hair spread on the pillow like ink wash, breathing slow and steady. Memories of last night rushed in, kissing in the kitchen, stumbling to the bedroom, more awake and more passionate than the first time. No alcohol as cover, only 2 honest hearts. Haley stirred, her lashes fluttered, then her eyes opened. She looked at me, surprised for a second, then smiled sleepily. Morning, her voice husky and soft from sleep. Not a dream, not a dream. I brushed her hair aside, my fingertips lingering on her cheek. Does it hurt? She knew what I meant, her face flushing slightly as she shook her head. And you? Any regrets? Regret not doing this sooner. I kissed her forehead, breathing in the scent of our mingled warmth. We stayed in bed until noon, like 2 students skipping class. Haley insisted on finishing the dinner we never ate last night, so we busied ourselves in the kitchen in our pajamas. If me holding her from behind while she cooked counted as busy. The eggs are burning, I murmured against her ear. You're distracting me, she teased, leaning back into my arms. After eating, we curled up on the couch to watch an old movie, neither of us paying attention to the plot. Her fingers twined with mine, sometimes lifting them to study, as if holding hands was an art form worth examining. "It's strange," she said softly. "We used to sit like this all the time, but it feels completely different now. Because now we can do this." I kissed her, feeling her shiver beneath my lips. And this her hand slid under my t-shirt, fingertips tracing circles at my waist. We explored each other like new lands, greedy for every inch. 6 years of friendship gave our intimacy a foundation, both familiar and thrilling, safe and electric. When the weekend ended, we had to face reality. Haley's job was in another city. "I could quit," she said suddenly at the station. "Move in with you." The thought made my heart race. But reason one. "Let's wait." I squeezed her hand. "Try long distance first." "Long distance," she repeated the words, smiling. From best friends to long-distance lovers, we really picked the hardest mode. On the platform, we said a reluctant goodbye. Haley wearing my marathon t-shirt, tucked into her jeans, saying she'd take it home as sleepwear. Remember video calls, she stood on tiptoe to kiss me. Every night, every minute if you want, I held her tight, savoring her warmth and weight in my arms. And so we began our official relationship. Though on Instagram, we had long been an obvious couple. When we announced it online, the likes and comments still poured in. Long distance was both easier and harder than expected. Easier because we were used to talking from afar. Harder because every parting now came with kisses and longing. We took turns visiting each other's city every weekend, our suitcases always carrying the other's clothes. 3 months later, on a Friday, Haley suddenly appeared downstairs at my office, dragging a small suitcase. Surprise. She jumped up and wrapped her arms around my neck. I quit my job. It turned out she had secretly arranged everything, resigned from her position, given up her apartment, and mailed most of her belongings to my place. Looking at her face glowing with excitement, I knew this was not an impulsive move, but a carefully thought-out decision. "Are you sure?" I cupped her face in my hands. "Giving up so much for me." "Not for you," she corrected me. "For us." And she winked playfully. "I found a better job here." That night, we put her things into my apartment, now our apartment. When she placed her toothbrush in my cup, I suddenly felt a strange sense of completeness. Living together was like a never-ending honeymoon. We discovered each other's little habits. She liked singing in the shower. I always forgot to close cabinet doors. She insisted weekend breakfast should be brunch, and I had collected a cupboard full of unusual tea bags. These details were not flaws, but reasons to love each other even more. One ordinary evening, we were curled up on the couch watching a boring TV show. Haley suddenly said, "You know, when I was packing, I found my college diary. Did it have anything about me?" I asked casually, my fingers playing with her hair. "Yes." Her voice softened. "I wrote about how much I liked watching you play basketball, the way you looked from the side. I wrote about how jealous I was of your girlfriend back then." I froze and looked down at her. Her eyes glimmered in the dim light. "How much time we wasted." I repeated her old words, kissing the top of her head. "We didn't waste anything." She tilted her head to look at me. "If we had started dating right away, we might have broken up long ago. It's those 6 years of friendship that made us unbreakable." She was right. Our relationship was built on a foundation of deep friendship, stronger and more intimate than most romances. We knew each other's worst sides, and still chose to love. 1 year later, on Christmas, I took Haley to Norway. We lay in the snow waiting for the aurora, just as she had once said she wanted in college. When the green ribbons of light began to dance in the night sky, I knelt on one knee and pulled out the ring I had prepared. "Haley, my best friend, my love." My voice trembled in the cold air. "Will you be my wife?" Her answer was a kiss, laced with snow and tears. At the wedding, when we danced our first dance, she whispered in my ear, "Remember our first night sharing a bed? You were so tense your whole body went stiff." "That's because a certain troublemaker crawled under my blanket in the middle of the night," I teased, pulling her waist closer. "Do you regret it?" she asked, just as she had that night. My answer was the same as back then. Never. Now, on our bedside table, there are 2 photo frames. One holds our wedding photo, the other a picture from college. Back then we were just opposite-sex best friends, yet already stood so close, smiling so sweetly. Sometimes I wake in the middle of the night, look at her sleeping beside me, and think of the night that changed everything. A bottle of wine, a bed, and 6 years of buried feelings. That finally turned us from best friends into lovers for life. And every morning, when I open my eyes to see her sleeping peacefully in my arms, I know this was the best decision I have ever made. From best friend to the rest of my life. The end. If you like Kitten's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.